Imagine waking up one morning and finding your neighbor has quietly surrounded your house, not with fences, with soldiers, with warships, with missiles pointed directly at your windows. That is exactly what Taiwan woke up to, not once, not twice, but repeatedly over the last 2 years. And the world is finally asking the question nobody wants to answer. Is China actually going to do it? Let's start from the beginning, because to understand what's happening in the Taiwan Strait today, you need to understand one thing China has believed for over 70 years. Taiwan is not a country, at least not according to Beijing. In 1949, a civil war ended in China. The Communist Party won. The losing side, the nationalist government, fled to a small island 180 kilometers off the Chinese coast. They called it the Republic of China. The rest of the world eventually started calling it Taiwan. For 75 years, Beijing has been waiting for the moment to bring that island back under its control. They call it reunification. Taiwan calls it invasion. And right now, in 2025, that waiting appears to be ending. Here's where the story gets serious. China as military, the People's Liberation Army, has spent the last decade transforming itself from a regional force into a global one. It now has the largest navy in the world by number of ships. It has hypersonic missiles that can hit a moving aircraft carrier. It has built artificial islands in the South China Sea, turning coral reefs into military bases. But the most alarming development is what happened in October 2024. China launched its largest military exercise around Taiwan in history. Over 100 warships, fighter jets crossing the median line, the invisible boundary that had kept both sides from direct confrontation for decades. Bombers flying paths that simulated a full naval blockade. Military analysts called it a rehearsal, not a threat, a rehearsal. Now, some of you might be thinking, why does a small island of 23 million people matter so much to the entire world? 2 words, semiconductors and geography. Taiwan makes over 60% of the world's semiconductors, the tiny chips inside every smartphone, every car, every military system, every AI server on Earth. One company alone, TSMC, based in Taiwan, produces chips that no other country can currently replicate. If Taiwan falls under Chinese control, Beijing controls the brain of the global economy. The geography is equally critical. Taiwan sits at the center of what military strategists call the first island chain, a string of islands stretching from Japan down through the Philippines that acts as a natural barrier containing China's navy. If China controls Taiwan, that barrier breaks. China's fleet moves freely into the Pacific. American dominance in Asia ends. This is not just about Taiwan. This is about who runs the world in the next 50 years. So where does America fit into this story? The United States has a policy called strategic ambiguity. For 45 years, Washington has told Taipei, "We'll sell you weapons. We support you, but we've never officially promised to fight for you." The idea was that this ambiguity would keep both sides cautious. China wouldn't invade because it wasn't sure America would stay out. Taiwan wouldn't declare independence because it wasn't sure America would step in. For decades, it worked. But in recent years, that ambiguity has started cracking. President Biden said publicly 4 times that the U.S. would defend Taiwan militarily. Each time, his own White House walked it back hours later. Meanwhile, the U.S. has approved billions in weapons sales to Taiwan. American military advisors are on the island. U.S. Navy ships regularly sail through the strait in what Washington calls freedom of navigation operations, and what Beijing calls deliberate provocation. 2 nuclear powers are playing a game of chicken, and the road is getting narrower. And what does Taiwan think about all of this? The people of Taiwan have lived under this shadow their entire lives. Polls consistently show that the vast majority, over 80%, want to maintain the current situation. Not formal independence, not reunification. Just this. Just the life they have now. Taiwan has built one of Asia's most successful democracies. It has a thriving tech economy. It has a society that values its own distinct identity. But it also has a military that is vastly outgunned, a population that has not had mandatory military service for most of the last decade, and a single neighbor with 1.4 billion people and the world's second largest defense budget breathing down its neck. The Taiwanese government has been quietly but urgently upgrading its defenses, purchasing drones, anti-ship missiles, and extending conscription back to 1 full year. Because they know that if war comes, the first hours will be everything. Here's something the mainstream news rarely covers. Xi Jinping's aggression toward Taiwan is not just about ideology. It's about survival, his own political survival. China's economy is struggling. Youth unemployment hit 21% in 2023 before Beijing stopped publishing the data. The real estate sector, which accounts for roughly 30% of the Chinese economy, is collapsing, with developers like Evergrande owing over $300 billion in debt. Consumer confidence is at historic lows. When a leader faces problems at home that he cannot solve, history shows a pattern. Create a crisis abroad to redirect attention. Rally the nation around a flag. Give people an enemy. Taiwan has always been that ready-made rallying point. Xi has staked his entire legacy and his constitutional right to rule indefinitely on the promise that Taiwan will return to China on his watch. That makes him less rational, more dangerous, and the timeline shorter than many analysts thought. Let's zoom out one final time. A war over Taiwan would not stay in the Taiwan Strait. It would immediately involve Japan, which hosts 55,000 U.S. troops and considers Taiwan's security essential to its own. It would involve South Korea, Australia, and the Philippines, all U.S. allies with bases in the region. It would trigger sanctions against China that would dwarf what we saw against Russia. But China's economy is 10 times larger, making those sanctions cut both ways. The IMF has estimated that a Taiwan conflict could wipe out 10% of global GDP. That's $10 trillion. That's a global depression. Every supply chain that runs through Asia, which is most of them, would collapse overnight. And then there's the nuclear dimension. Both the US and China have nuclear weapons. A conventional war that starts going badly for one side creates a terrifying pressure to escalate. This is why the Taiwan question is the single most dangerous flashpoint on Earth right now. So, 3 possible scenarios. Listen carefully. Scenario 1. Continued deterrence. The current situation holds. China continues pressure campaigns but doesn't invade. Calculating the military and economic cost is still too high. America keeps selling weapons. Taiwan keeps upgrading. A cold standoff that neither side officially ends. This is currently the most likely scenario, but it gets less likely every year. Scenario 2. Blockade. China doesn't launch a full military invasion. Instead, it declares a quarantine, blockading Taiwan's ports, cutting its imports, strangling its economy slowly. This is harder for the US to respond to militarily and harder to justify as an act of war. It's the gray zone option. Some analysts believe this is China's preferred path. Scenario 3. Full invasion. She decides the window is closing. Perhaps after a Taiwan election result he finds unacceptable. Perhaps after a moment of perceived American weakness. A full amphibious assault. The most catastrophic option for everyone. Most military analysts currently believe China does not yet have the capability to guarantee success, but the gap is closing by 2027. 2027 is a date you should remember. It marks the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Liberation Army. Xi Jinping has reportedly told military commanders to be ready by that year. That is less than 2 years away. The Taiwan question isn't a distant geopolitical problem. The chips in your phone, the prices in your shops, the stability of the global economy, all of it runs through that small island. If you want to understand how the world really works, subscribe, because tomorrow we go deeper. What happens when China and the US go to economic war, and what it means for your money.